Live television can turn unpredictable in a heartbeat, and that's exactly what happened when two of the music industry's biggest names, Kelly Clarkson and Gwen Stefani, clashed in a moment no one saw coming. What began as a friendly promotional interview on the Kelly Clarkson Show quickly spiraled into an explosive confrontation that exposed buried tensions, unspoken betrayals, and shocking industry secrets. The studio was bathed in warm afternoon light, cameras rolling as Kelly smiled across at Gwen, her usual cheerful energy slightly forced. Gwen, meanwhile, appeared guarded, her body language tense, her tone cautious yet simmering with something deeper. Kelly started off with a standard question, her professional voice polished and calm. "You've been in the music industry for over 2 decades now, Gwen. Do you think it's changed for the better, especially for women?" Gwen gave a small smile, tapping her fingers on her knee before replying. "You know, Kelly, that's a loaded question. People love to say it's better now, but honestly, I'm not sure that's true." Her words immediately shifted the mood. The audience, sensing tension, fell quiet as Kelly leaned forward, trying to sound engaged but uneasy. "What do you mean by that?" she asked. Gwen took a breath before answering. "We still have the same gatekeepers, the same power structures. People just got better at hiding their real intentions behind politically correct language." Kelly tried to steer the conversation back to something positive. "Well, it's great to see more women in executive roles now and more female producers getting recognition," she said, smiling tightly. Gwen let out a sharp laugh. "Recognition? That's interesting, Kelly, because I remember when some people were very quick to take credit for other people's work, especially when those people were women." The air grew heavier. Kelly's smile faltered. "I'm not sure I follow," she said cautiously. Gwen's voice turned cool but cutting. "Oh, I think you do. Let's talk about your breakaway album, for instance." The moment Gwen mentioned Kelly's breakout record, the studio froze. Even the camera operators hesitated. Kelly's face went pale. "Gwen, I don't know what you're implying," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Gwen didn't blink. "I'm not implying anything. I'm saying it directly. You want to talk about recognition? Let's talk about the women who wrote half the songs on Breakaway and never got credit. The demo vocals that somehow disappeared from the final production. The people who got erased to fit a cleaner story." Kelly's hands gripped the armrests of her chair. "That's ridiculous. Everyone who worked on that album is credited properly." "I would never what?" Gwen interrupted sharply. "Would never let your team bury the truth? I have the receipts, Kelly. The session notes. The email chains. The voice memos. Don't act like you don't know." The audience was completely silent now, the tension thick enough to cut. Kelly tried to regain control of the moment, her tone softening but her face flushed. "Gwen, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding. Maybe we should take a commercial break." Gwen shook her head firmly. "No, I don't think we should. You asked me about women in this industry. I'm telling you what really happens. The erasure, the credit stealing, the way powerful people rewrite history to make themselves look better." Kelly's composure cracked. "I've always supported other women," she said defensively. "My career has always been about integrity." Gwen let out a sharp laugh. "Integrity? You sat in a studio while they played you demo tracks that other women poured their hearts into, and you recorded over them like they never existed. And now you want to sit here and tell me things are better for women?" By this point, Kelly's face was red, her voice trembling with both anger and disbelief. Gwen's tone stayed calm but fierce, her words landing like blows. The tension reached its breaking point. Without another word, Gwen unhooked her mic, stood up, and walked off the set. The audience gasped, and the cameras captured Kelly sitting frozen in her chair, struggling to maintain her composure. The segment abruptly cut to black. What had started as a simple talk show interview had turned into one of the most shocking live confrontations in television history. A raw, unfiltered glimpse into the hidden rivalries, buried egos, and silent injustices that still shape the music industry behind the spotlight. That's not how the music industry works. "Gwen," Kelly said sharply, trying to regain control of the conversation. "Demos get reworked, songs get rearranged. That's the collaborative process. Nobody was trying to erase anyone." Gwen tilted her head slightly, her lips curling into a cold smile. "Collaborative?" she repeated mockingly. "Is that what you call it when someone else writes the bridge, creates the hook, and you just show up to sing it, then take full credit?" Because where I come from, that's called theft. The tension in the studio was unbearable now. Even the cameras hesitated to pan between the two women, as Kelly's production crew exchanged nervous glances, unsure whether to intervene or keep filming. Kelly's face flushed a deep red, a mix of anger and embarrassment, while Gwen sat with unnerving composure, like she had been waiting years for this exact moment. You want to know what really happened? Gwen continued, her voice slicing through the silence. Let's talk about Sarah Chen, a 23-year-old songwriter who spent 3 months crafting the melody and lyrics for what became your biggest hit. She submitted it through proper channels, met with your team, and played it in that very same studio, where you recorded it 6 weeks later. Kelly's breathing grew heavier. That's not how it happened, she stammered. Sarah was paid for her contributions. She was credited as a co-writer. Gwen's eyes flashed. Co-writer? She repeated, her voice rising for the first time. Kelly, she wrote the entire song. The only thing you added was your name to the credits. She got 15% of the royalties for a song that was completely hers, and when she tried to fight it, your legal team buried her in paperwork until she gave up. The audience was frozen. Some leaned forward, others covered their mouths in disbelief. This wasn't the cheerful, feel-good daytime show they had come to expect. Sarah signed a standard industry contract, Kelly said through gritted teeth. She knew exactly what she was agreeing to. Nobody forced her. Gwen shot back instantly. A standard industry contract your team wrote, one designed to screw over young writers. You know what Sarah's doing now? She's working at a coffee shop in Nashville because your people made sure she'd never get another chance. They blacklisted her just for asking questions about her own song. Kelly's hands trembled as she glanced toward her executive producer offstage, making a desperate cutting motion across her throat to end the segment. But Gwen wasn't done. And Sarah wasn't the only one, she said, leaning forward. There was Marcus Williams, the producer who created that signature sound on your third album. He came to your team with a complete demo, full production, everything. Your people loved it, hired him to produce the album, and then fired him 3 weeks before release. They gave all the production credits to someone else. Marcus was difficult to work with. Kelly snapped, her voice rising. He was unprofessional. He missed deadlines. He was unreliable. Gwen's eyes narrowed. He was gay, Kelly. A young, gay black producer in an industry that wasn't ready for him. And your team used that against him. They spread rumors about his professionalism and character just to justify stealing his work. The accusation hung in the air like a bomb. Kelly's face drained of color. That's a lie, she whispered. That's a complete lie, and you know it. Gwen's voice softened, but the impact was brutal. I know it because Marcus told me himself, right before he left the industry for good. He trusted the wrong people. He thought your team would protect him, give him the credit he earned. Instead, they used him up and threw him away. Kelly began pacing, her polished TV persona completely shattered. This is insane, she said, her voice cracking. You're sitting here making wild accusations with no proof, no evidence, just stories people told you. Gwen didn't flinch. I have proof, she said simply. Emails, recordings, contracts, everything. The question is, what are you going to do about it? The studio went dead silent. Kelly stopped pacing, her breathing heavy, eyes locked on Gwen. For a moment, it looked like she might break down. Then something hardened in her expression. You know what I think this is really about? Kelly said coldly, her voice dripping with venom. Jealousy. Your career peaked 15 years ago, Gwen, and you can't stand that mine is still going strong. For the first time, Gwen's calm demeanor cracked. Excuse me? She said quietly, her tone warning. Kelly stepped closer, her words sharp and deliberate. You heard me. Your last album flopped. Your tour had half-empty venues, and now you're sitting here trying to tear down someone who's still relevant, because you can't handle being irrelevant. The crowd gasped. The camera zoomed in on Gwen's face, her composure splintering under the sting of Kelly's words. The air was thick with shock and disbelief as the two women glared at each other, two stars colliding under the unforgiving glare of live television, their decades of unspoken resentment finally laid bare for the world to see. This wasn't about justice, credit, or any of that nonsense. It was about a husband trying to stay in the headlines. The words hit like a physical blow. Gwen's face went pale. For a brief moment, she looked genuinely hurt, but almost instantly, her expression hardened into something cold and dangerous. A has-been? Gwen repeated slowly. Kelly, I was selling out stadiums when you were still singing in church choirs. I was writing hit songs when you were a contestant on a reality show, hoping someone would notice you. Kelly fired back sharply. At least I earned my success. I didn't have to marry a famous musician to get attention. I didn't have to reinvent myself every few years because people got tired of my act. The personal attacks were escalating now, moving far beyond the original accusations about stolen songs and credit. This had turned into a full-scale character assassination from both sides. Gwen rose to her feet, her voice deadly quiet. You want to talk about earning success, Kelly? Let's talk about how you earned yours. Let's talk about the casting couch meetings, the compromises you made, the people you stepped on to get where you are. Kelly's face went white. How dare you? She whispered, trembling with anger. How dare I what? Gwen shot back. Tell the truth? You've built your entire image around being authentic and relatable, but underneath it all, you're just another industry puppet who sold her soul for fame. Get out, Kelly said, her voice shaking with rage. Get out of my studio right now. I'm not going anywhere, Gwen replied calmly. Not until people know the truth about who you really are. Kelly turned toward her security team, who had been watching the confrontation unfold with growing alarm. Get her out of here now, she shouted. You're really going to have me physically removed for telling the truth? Gwen asked, still seated but glaring at the approaching guards. This is how you handle criticism? This is the authentic Kelly Clarkson everyone loves? This isn't criticism, Kelly screamed. This is a coordinated attack and I won't stand for it on my own show. Finally, Gwen stood, smoothing down her dress and picking up her purse. You know what, Kelly? She said as she began to walk off stage. But before leaving, she turned back, the studio lights catching the determination in her eyes. What she said next would become the most quoted moment of the entire confrontation. You know what the saddest part is, Kelly? Gwen's voice carried clearly through the silent studio. I actually used to respect you. I thought you were different from the rest of them. But you're just another industry machine, grinding up young artists and spitting them out when you're done. Kelly's hands clenched into fists. Don't you dare lecture me about respect, she shouted. You came on my show under false pretenses, ambushed me with lies and accusations, and now you're trying to play the victim. False pretenses? Gwen laughed bitterly. Kelly, I've been trying to have this conversation with you for 3 years. Your people blocked my calls, refused my meeting requests, and shut down every attempt at dialogue. This was the only way to make you actually listen. The revelation stunned the audience. Some gasped, others shook their heads in disbelief. Kelly's expression shifted rapidly as she processed Gwen's admission. You planned this, she said slowly. You came on my show to destroy me on live television. I came on your show to give you a chance to make things right, Gwen corrected. To see if you'd take responsibility for what you've done, maybe even help the people you've hurt. But instead, you proved exactly who you are. Kelly's voice cracked. What kind of person am I, Gwen? Tell me, since you seem to know me so well. You're a coward, Gwen said flatly. Someone who takes credit for other people's work, destroys careers to protect your own image, and hides behind lawyers and publicists when someone calls you out. You're everything that's wrong with this industry. The words hit Kelly like punches. She stumbled slightly, reaching for a chair to steady herself. I never meant for anyone to get hurt, she said weakly. The industry is complicated. There are contracts, legal issues. I can't control every decision. But you can control whether you speak up, Gwen interrupted fiercely. You can control whether you use your platform to help people or to silence them. You chose silence, Kelly. You let people suffer just to protect your own reputation. Tears filled Kelly's eyes, though her voice remained defiant. You don't understand the pressure I'm under, the expectations, the contracts, the people depending on me. I have hundreds of employees. I have responsibilities. Sarah Chen had responsibilities too, Gwen said coldly. She had loans, rent, a career to build. But apparently, your responsibilities mattered more than hers. The mention of Sarah's name broke something inside Kelly. She covered her face, her shoulders shaking. I tried to help her, she whispered. But the legal team said it was too complicated, that it would set a precedent. A precedent for what? Gwen demanded. Treating people fairly? Giving credit where it's due? God forbid we set that kind of precedent in the music industry. Kelly looked up, her makeup streaked with tears. What do you want from me, Gwen? What do you want me to do? I want you to tell the truth, Gwen said firmly. Publicly acknowledge what happened to Sarah, to Marcus, to all the others. I want you to make it right. I can't do that, Kelly whispered, breaking down. You know I can't do that. The legal implications alone would destroy everything I've built, Kelly whispered, her voice trembling. Gwen's expression didn't soften. Then you've made your choice, she said coldly, turning toward the exit. You've chosen your career over your conscience, your image over your integrity. I hope it was worth it. The studio fell into stunned silence as Gwen began walking away, her heels echoing sharply against the stage floor. Kelly stood frozen, watching her rival's silhouette fade into the shadows of the backstage wings. Then suddenly she called out, her voice cracking with desperation. Wait, please, just wait. Gwen stopped, though she didn't turn around at first. What? She asked flatly. Kelly took a shaky breath. If I try to make this right, if I try to help these people, will you help me? Will you work with me instead of against me? For a long moment, Gwen stood perfectly still, weighing the sincerity in Kelly's words. Finally, she turned back, her face unreadable. Kelly, I've been trying to work with you for 3 years, she said quietly. I've sent emails, made phone calls, reached out through mutual friends. Your team blocked me at every turn. Why should I believe this time will be any different? Because now it's public, Kelly said, gesturing weakly toward the cameras still rolling. Because now I can't pretend it's not happening. Because now I have to face the consequences, one way or another. Gwen studied her face for several long seconds, searching for any trace of genuine remorse or conviction. You're asking me to trust you after everything that's happened? After you called me a has-been and questioned my motives? Kelly nodded slowly, tears glistening under the studio lights. I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove I'm not the person you think I am. I'm asking you to help me be better. The audience sat frozen, the tension in the room electric. Gwen finally broke the silence. Here's what's going to happen, she said firmly, her tone calm but authoritative. You're going to have your lawyers contact Sarah Chin and Marcus Williams within 48 hours. You'll offer them proper compensation and official credit for their work. You'll issue public apologies and acknowledgments. And you'll establish a fund to help other artists who've been exploited by this industry. Kelly nodded quickly, her voice shaking.
Yes, okay, I can do that. I will do that. But Gwen wasn't done.
And if you don't follow through, she continued coldly, if this turns out to be just another publicity stunt, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who you really are. I have documentation, Kelly, I have evidence, and I won't hesitate to use it. Kelly swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. I understand. I won't let you down. Gwen stared at her for a long, heavy moment before finally nodding once. We'll see, she said simply. Then without another word, she turned and walked off stage, her departure leaving Kelly standing alone beneath the harsh studio lights. The confrontation was over, but the silence that followed was deafening. The camera stopped rolling, yet no one in the audience moved or spoke. Kelly remained in the center of the stage, tears streaming down her face as the reality of what had just happened sank in. The weight of her choices and their consequences crashed down on her all at once. This wasn't just the end of an interview. It was the beginning of a reckoning, one that would force the entire music industry to confront how it treated its most vulnerable artists. And it all began with one woman's decision to walk off a talk show, rather than stay silent about injustice. So what do you think? Was Gwen right to confront Kelly so publicly, or should she have handled things privately? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful moments that changed everything in entertainment, because sometimes these raw confrontations reveal more truth than any red carpet ever could.